Mr. Raghavendra Mirji. He is a visionary leader and instrumental in scaling up the T&D business for Godrej. He has been associated with the Godrej Group for last 2.5 decades and worked in different businesses and functions. He is an engineer holding a master's degree in business administration. Presently, he is positioned as Senior Vice President and Business Head of the Electricals and Electronics Division at Godrej and Boyce. Today, Mr. Mirji will walk us through how can India achieve energy independence over the years. So then, let's welcome Mr. Raghavendra Mirji.
The question definitely is how India can achieve the independence, the energy independence rather. Then, my panelists also talked about many other aspects of how the Indian consumers, the demand is increasing. That is, the per capita consumption is increasing. So, for example, if you take the electricity consumption, we are at roughly about 1,250 kilowatt hour, as per capita consumption. Whereas we are far below compared to the world average, even some of the progressing countries like China. So that means this will be the primary driver for Indian economy, or rather Indian power industry to fuel, because the consumption is going to come from various drivers. So today we are talking about, we have already electrified all the villages. We are talking about 24/7 power for them. And then we are giving them the urbanized infrastructure where the electricity consumption becomes more needy. And we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, where we are driving industries, homegrown industries. So industry requires power. We're talking about urban infra like metros, and then electrification of the Indian railways. So all these things are going to drive the need for the larger units, larger the consumption. So then the urban transportation, rural transportation getting more improved by getting the roads right, by getting flyovers, connectivity improving, people traveling, the transportation need also getting increased. So for energy, and the third industry driving the gas and the other fossil fuels is also getting increased. So India, if it has to reach $1 trillion economy by 2025, these are very essential. Hence, we cannot really think of cutting down. So you talked about a very interesting thing. In our mathematics, in mathematical model, we say how to reduce means that it has two components. So when you ask how to reduce dependence on the energy, now it has two count. Number one, can we reduce the consumption itself? So when we reduce the consumption itself, we're also addressing the factor of achieving the independence from the energy need. Essentially your question, we remove the dependence of the energy means we are actually become self-reliant in terms of removing the dependency of other countries or imports. I'm essentially just talking about this. So as I mentioned, more than 75% of our oil need and the fossil fuel need we are importing. So this is only 25% is produced in India. So 75% dependency has to cut down. The first thing then comes to my mind is then cut down the requirement also, or cut down the usage also. So, but in the light of what I discussed, of how the economy is shaping, how the other drivers are going to increase the consumption, then there's a distant, possibility. Then the other way of looking at it is, can it be more efficient? So when I say reduce the consumption itself, that means can we improve our efficiency? Can we have a high efficiency electrical equipments where by giving the same output, I'll be consuming the less power? Can I have more energy efficient gadgets? Can I have more energy efficient lightings or luminaries that I talked about? Can I have more energy efficiency everywhere that I talked about? Can I have a fuel efficient vehicles? Now, if you see, when I say this is actually playing out. Every manufacturer, electrical manufacturers today, they're talking about energy efficient equipment. Every industry you talked about, under the sustainability guidelines, they are talking about reducing the energy consumption. Today, the buildings are the biggest, the drivers for the carbon footprint, that is getting increased. So the carbon emissions rather. So today, even the buildings are going green. There is a green certification which is in place. Governments are incentivizing for builders to go for green certification. So under the green building gamut, we are essentially talking about reducing the energy. So how energy efficient buildings are designed so that the ventilation, the absorption of sun heat, other things can be reduced, so that the need of the air conditioning and the lighting requirement comes down. So largely I can go on. Electrical vehicles, I will come back to the electric vehicles, the fuel efficient engines, the fuel efficient vehicles we are talking about. So the one portion that I'm talking about is how can we reduce the consumption by becoming more energy efficient in our approach. That's how we can reduce the dependency. Second dependency is obviously how can we develop a technology that can replace the fossil fuel requirement. Now, if my need of importing oil, my need of importing coal goes down drastically, my dependency on these countries for import also goes down drastically. So I touched about the hydrogen fuel, or rather green hydrogen. So the green hydrogen, it takes the solar energy as input, and then through an electrolyzer process, it produces the energy that can be utilized. On a similar line, the fuel cells can also be utilized. That's one. Secondly, I was also reading through an article. So even the nuclear power, the fission and the fusion is two different aspects. The other one is environmentally, risky, but the technology has changed. When you do the same hydrogen arrangement in a different way, it will address those leakage issue, or the the spreading of the rays and other things. Then it will be much powerful energy tool for us, both in terms of addressing power sector as well as on the transportation sector. So I think people are working on that particular technology. Solar, we need to really come out with more doable policy in terms of supporting investments, removing barriers, bringing the hybrid technology of utilizing solar, wind plus battery storage. So this also, because today solar has a limitation in terms of we getting power only during the daytime. The monsoon we will not be getting it. Most of the regions we will not be getting it. But whatever time that we get, if we can develop a storage and can utilize the wind power also as a hybrid. In Gujarat, it is successfully planned. More than 200 megawatt of power is installed now with the hybrid technology. So that means then 24/7 we can really rely upon this combination. Then also can reduce the conventional source of power. So technology will definitely help in doing an alternate. The first is a reduction, the second is an alternate. An alternate thing is this. Even in the transportation sector, the electric vehicle has kicked up very well. And it is actually, to anybody's imagination, everyone thought it will be a factor for 2028, 2030. Probably it has started in 2021, and 2022-23, we are seeing huge number of vehicles already produced and sold and used. So we never imagined that this can take up such a pace. Even the luxury cars have started coming up with the EV vehicles. And at the same time, the rapid improvisation on the infrastructure of EV charging also is taking place. Yet it is still a concern area, of it going in everybody's mind. The charging is a big pain. The number of hours that it takes, the frequency, the availability. It is also like a CNG. When it came, we didn't have enough stations where the CNG can be filled. So today also it's a struggle. But actually, the EV infrastructure should now kick up throughout India, so that these concerns can be addressed. So with this gamut of technology, I believe the energy independency can be achieved. Third thing is a policy framework that I always talked about. So whenever we are bringing in such a new concept, and this is to the nation, I believe, and we can really reduce our import burden to the in a big way. The gold and the oil is what is actually making us bleed in terms of our huge imports. If we can really reduce at least one portion of it, that is the oil and the coal, with this alternate technology, we can really do much better in terms of economy. Now, hence the investment has to come up. So the government alone cannot do, as I said, the public-private participation should kick in. So majority, the major companies, the private companies in India, they have already gone ahead and tied up with, the teams for producing green hydrogen, for producing the photovoltaic cells as well as the modules. So that is happening, and EV structure also should come up. So all three things, manufacturing in India should kick in, so that again the dependency on the foreign players or imports may not come to really come in between on this. So, and with these aspects, I'm sure we will steadily but surely can achieve the energy independence. So these are my submissions, and any further details, happy to answer on this.